So we are now live now. We will wait for 1 minute and then we will start.
Sure.
Okay, so let's start. I think, yeah. Good evening, viewers. I am Siddarth Ingle, working as a program manager at Green Yatra. So today we have very interesting topic: renewable energy, importance and need for sustainability. And we have Mr. Shane D'Souza as a speaker for today's topic. So Shane is a highly experienced sustainability analyst with over 2.5 years of expertise in the field of sustainability. Shane's extensive knowledge in geology and energy system engineering makes him a unique asset in his role as a sustainability analyst. Shane's expertise include conducting environmental impact assessment, developing sustainability strategies, analyzing carbon footprint, and designing and implementing sustainability initiatives. He has worked with both public and private organizations, helping them to improve their sustainability practices and reduce their environmental impact. So we are excited to listen you share. And today's topic is a really very hot topic, and we need renewable energy definitely to reduce our climate change. Yeah. So Shane, please start.
Okay. So thank you, Siddharth, for that introduction and welcome, viewers. So, like Siddharth had mentioned, renewable energy is one of the most hot topics right now in the market. So, let's understand a bit first about renewable energy and scope in this talk. So, basically, when we talk about renewable energy, we're talking about all those sources of energy that do not go extinct, they will be replenished. So basically, it's about those forms of energy that naturally will start rejuvenating themselves over a short period of time. So when we talk about renewable energy, we talk about the basics like our solar energy, wind energy, hydropower energy, biomass energy, and so on. Now the question is, why is renewable energy such a hot topic right now in today's day and age? The answer is very simple. Renewable energy are those forms of energy that basically emit the least amount of carbon emissions, if not zero. So, everyone knows that climate change, global warming, is one of the most pressing issues our country and the whole world right now is facing. So, when we shift to renewable energy, we're basically reducing the amount of carbon emissions that we emit from our energy production. And as a result of this, the whole global warming potential which is emitted by us is going down. Our carbon footprint reduces. The entire effect that we have on the atmosphere, on our environment, is much lesser and much better. So now let's talk about renewable energy from the point of view of India, right? So when we think about renewable energy, now we have a basic understanding of it. Now we need to know why it's so important with our country. So, India, as we all know, is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Everyone all around the world is looking to India when it comes to addressing climate change, global warming, and what are we going to do to go ahead, right? So, when we think about developing country, energy is one of the most critical components for us to grow. We all know that we need energy in all our different activities, in all our productions, in all the sectors in order for the country to develop, to become better, right? So, as of now, in the current statistics, India is the third largest energy consumer in the whole world. And as we all know, its energy consumption is expected to grow at a very rapid pace. This is also because of the growing population rates, the growing demands, and India's own targets of becoming better. So, in order to increase all the production in all the different sectors, the amount of energy that is required will also be increasing. But however, the country's current dependence of our energy is basically on fossil fuels. As we know, majority of India's energy comes from coal and oil. Both of these are very unsustainable. Unsustainable in the fact that they basically emit large amounts of carbon into the environment, and also that they're getting depleted. The amount of coal and oil is reducing. So India definitely needs to shift from this. And renewable energy is something which is very crucial for India's energy security and long term sustainability. Again, when we talk about sustainability, it's basically understanding that India wants to go carbon neutral in the near future. The recent talks of COP26 and the other COPs all focused on India and other countries phasing out of fossil fuels, of other dependent sources, and becoming net zero. When we say net zero, it basically means that the amount of carbon that we're emitting into the atmosphere is the same amount of carbon that is absorbed by our other sources like our trees, our oceans, and so on. So, in order to be carbon zero, we have to make sure we're reducing as less as carbon emissions as possible. And for that, we need to shift to renewable energy. So, this is basically why renewable energy is so important. So, in this talk today, what are we going to do is we're going to be focusing on India's ambitious renewable energy targets, target that India has set for itself, the challenges that it can face, in order to meet these targets, and what are some of the potential solutions to overcome these targets. So, let's get a basic understanding of what India wants to do in the terms of renewable energy. So India has set a very ambitious target in terms of renewable energy. This basically shows India's commitment to reducing the carbon footprint and addressing climate change. India is trying to show the world that India is ready to address this. India is ready to take on the role, and India is ready to make changes when it comes to carbon emissions. So the countries aim to achieve a renewable energy capacity of 175 gigawatts by 2022. So this is how much of energy India wants to generate in this past year. And from this, 100 gigawatts was going to be in solar energy, 60 gigawatts was trying to be from wind energy, 10 gigawatts from biomass, 5 gigawatts from hydropower. So these were targets that India had set. India also set targets of achieving 40% of its total installed capacity from non-fossil fuel sources by 2030. That means out of 100% of the energy which is generated in India, 60% would come from fossil fuels like your coal and oil, and 40% will come from its renewable energy capacity. This will be around 450 gigawatts. So the country also aims to reduce the carbon emissions by 33 to 35% from its original 2005 levels and achieve a 40% share of renewable energy in 2030. So this basically shows that the country is really committed to making changes. It set very realistic and achievable targets and is also doing a lot to achieve it in this front. So now I'm just going to show you all a short video which gives a small understanding about the scale of renewable energy and the future of renewable energy in India. So let me just share this.
Revolutions in recent years, going from a country dependent on oil and coal to slowly relying on wind, solar, and other green sources of energy. According to a report done by IBEF, India's installed renewable energy capacity grew from 45.9 gigawatts in 2016 to over 151 gigawatts in 2021, which means that the green energy of the country has tripled in just the last few years. Moreover, India's transition is going to further increase as the government is targeting a capacity of over 500 gigawatts by 2030, which is the world's largest expansion plan into the renewable sector. And for those of you who don't know how big 1 gigawatt is, well, just 1 gigawatt of clean energy is over 3.1 million average solar panels, or for normal power usage, is enough to turn on 110 million LEDs. So, India's rising renewable energy sector is being led by the call to action by climate change, but also because renewable energy is becoming a cheaper source of energy. Solar has the best momentum as its cost fell by over 82% over the last 10 years. Hence why India is also aiming to have its biggest break into the photovoltaic solar systems. It is known today that the nation has some of the world's largest solar farms around the world. India has what is known as the ultra-mega solar power projects due to the sheer size and volume of these initiatives. Furthermore, India's largest solar park, which is also known as the world's largest, is a 2,255 megawatt station known as the Badla Solar Park, and it spans an area of over 5,700 hectares. So, how did India revolutionize its green energy sector? And can it be the world's renewable energy hub? Before we move on, don't forget to
So now the basic understanding of India in the terms of renewable energy sector. As it said, the main focus is on India becoming the next renewable energy hub. It means that basically the country is going to generate a large amount of energy just based from its renewable energy. As you can also see from the video, it shows that a large amount of solar energy is being generated in the country. If India does generate its total amount of solar production, it could be one of the top leaders in solar. Right now, India is ranked fourth in the world in terms of solar energy production. And with this target of generating more than 500 gigawatts of energy just from the solar potential, then India could be the main producer and leader of solar energy all across the globe. So India does have a lot of potential just in terms of even this one resource, if we take into consideration. That's also because of the country's unique geographic location. As we all know, India is situated in an area where we are surrounded by water from all sides. At the same time, we have a good amount of sun. The sun temperature is pretty crucial for your renewable sources like solar. It's at a good temperature, which is between 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. It doesn't generally rise much higher because for solar energy, the temperature is very crucial. If the temperature rises too much, then the efficiency of the panels will go down. So India is in a very good geographic location. We have large amount of areas in Rajasthan and up north, which can be used to extract the right amount of solar energy which we get. So India does have the potential just in terms of solar itself. So now we're going to talk about the challenges that India can face in meeting the targets which you mentioned above, right? So India did set many ambitious renewable energy targets, and now we're going to be discussing some of the obstacles which it could face in meeting these targets. So basically, one of them is obviously in terms of financing, right? So all these renewable energy products, although in the long run they do become cost effective, but the first thing is to finance it, right? We need large amount of investments for these renewable energy products. So one of the most significant challenges that India is going to face in renewable energy is financing. Although the country does have made significant progress in attracting investments in renewable energy sector, it will also require a large amount of investments to meet its ambitious targets. That means that the more the targets India sets, the larger amount of investments it will need. Because renewable energy, when we talk about it, it does need large amount of capital to get started. But once it does get started, then the amount of its maintenance and operation costs are pretty negligible, and then the project becomes self-sustainable on itself. It generates electricity at much cheaper cost, which will help everyone across the country. It will definitely give return on investments, and the most important to be sustainable is that it will emit zero carbon emissions. Moreover, the cost of the capital which is required for these renewable energy projects in India is higher than the other countries, which makes financing a bit of a challenge. So this is basically because of the production of some of the parts, because of the needs of the country to run these projects, there is a bit of a challenge in what how much of money that will be needed in order to get these investments, in order to get these projects completed. So that's the first one. The second one, which we're going to be talking about, is integration. So basically, what it means is that we need a large amount of a grid in order to get this energy and to successfully distribute this energy. So the grid infrastructure, which currently exists in India, needs to be a bit more large scale in order to handle renewable energy. So it and also it needs to be large scale so there is no wastage of renewable energy. So the intermittent nature of renewable energy, such as solar, wind, they are some of the things that possess a challenge to grid stability. So basically, all across the globe, this challenge is being faced because renewable energy right now, there's a large amount of issue which is being faced in the terms of its storage. So although we have this renewable energy which we use, right, we need to store it and then successfully distribute it. So once we learn on how we can store it successfully in these batteries and then get a grid which is large enough to successfully distribute it, then we'll be distributing the correct amount of energy which we actually generate. Otherwise, there is going to be wastage that happens. So although India might generate, let's say, 500 gigawatts of energy, not all of this energy will actually reach the end consumer. So those are some of the challenges which we are talking about. The next one obviously is land acquisition. Um, as we all know, for solar panels, for wind, we need large amount of land. And the beauty of wind is that although we do require land to run the wind turbines, the same area which is used to construct a wind turbine can also be used for farming, because a wind turbine is just a tall vertical structure. It does not interfere with the ground below. So generally, when wind turbine structures are done, the same wind turbine is also used, same land is also used for farming and other activities. So that part is good. But when we talk about solar panels, if we're only constructing ground solar PV panels, then that will take a large amount of area. It will require a large amount of land. So India needs to acquire the land in order to make these projects. A main thing is using land area properly and not just cutting down trees in order to get this, because if we cut down trees, then again the carbon emission, the carbon footprint is going to be affected. Another challenge would be the policies and the framework. So India needs to, update its policies, needs to mend its policies a bit in order to suit the investors who are investing in this renewable energy and to attract more investors. Lastly, the challenge is currently there's a very low demand for renewable energy. Okay, so although India has set its demand, the demand for renewable energy is a bit low. The main reason behind this again is cost, right? Because India is not generating that amount of renewable energy. The cost of renewable energy is slightly more expensive than coal, the energy which we get from coal. So people are purchasing the cheaper alternative. But once India starts investing more amount of renewable energy and starts generating it, then the cost of coal and the cost of what we get from renewable will be more or less the same. And then it would be better for everyone to start purchasing renewable energy rather than coal. So that is one of the main, these are the main challenges which India is going to be facing in this sector. So, lastly, now what are we going to be talking about in today's talk is the different solutions. So now we understand the basics. We understood what is renewable energy. We understood the targets that India has set for itself, how India is planning to improve, how India is planning to work on it. Then we understood all the different challenges which we're going to face. Now we're going to talk about the different solutions. So all these together make us understand the future of renewable energy in India. And so that is what we will be doing next. So when we talk about solutions, so like I said, India's ambitious renewable energy targets require significant investments in this sector. The country needs to attract more investments in renewable energy. It needs to enhance its grid infrastructure and energy storage. It needs to work on its land acquisition process. It needs to simplify the policy and the framework, and it needs to increase the demand for renewable energy through education and awareness campaigns. So, like you can see over here, the solutions have each targeted one challenge which we are facing, and that's how India can work on it. So, when we talk about the first one, right, attracting more investments in renewable energy. Basically, it's very simple. India needs to attract more investments in renewable energy so that it can meet its targets. Okay, the country has already attracted significant investments in the recent years, but it still needs more in order to reach its target. As we even saw in the video, in the last couple of decades, India's renewable energy has tripled. That means India is getting a large amount of investments. India is making a lot amount of progress. So the government does play a very critical role in this. The government needs to create investor-friendly environment and provide them with incentives and some reducing their regulatory barriers. What this means is that the government can reduce the amount of taxes that the investors are paying in order to invest in renewable energy, and this will be better not only for the investors but also for the country in a long-term scope. So India does need to increase its access to finance for the different types of renewable energy projects, especially for the small and medium scale enterprises. So when we get these small and medium scale enterprises, then it's much better and much better scope for our country. So the Indian government has already taken major steps to attract investments in renewable energy. It has already created an investment-friendly environment by reducing some of it, and it does definitely provide incentives for creating renewable energy projects. The government also has a dedicated institution which is called the Indian Renewable Energy Development Agency. And the main scope and the main objective of this agency is to provide support to the renewable energy projects. So the country already knows its challenges, the country already knows what it's going to be facing, and the country is already working on it. These are some notable points which we need to keep in mind. The next is when we spoke about the grid infrastructure and energy storage. So, one of the biggest challenges, as we mentioned above, is basically expanding the renewable energy in India, right? It's very hard to expand it when the grid infrastructure and the energy storage, the batteries, are not as good enough, they're not efficient enough to meet its current needs. So India does need to enhance its grid infrastructure and energy storage so that it can accommodate the growing share of renewable energy. Now, India's power is not designed to accommodate the intermittent nature of renewable energy sources. So, it's very simple. The country does need to upgrade its current infrastructure. It needs to introduce new technologies like smart grids, energy storage, high efficient batteries. All this will help to improve the flexibility and the reliability of the grid. So India has taken some steps to enhance its grid infrastructure. The government has launched already several programs to promote its new energy storage. So this is known one of the projects which the government has done is called the National Energy Storage Mission. The government also has announced plans to set up a national smart grid mission, which will help to develop a smart grid infrastructure in the country. So those had to do with the first two major issues. Then we spoke about the land. So as we know, acquiring land in India is one of the most biggest challenges because the country's huge population. So acquiring the land is critical in order to expand renewable energy, right? India's land acquisition is a bit complicated and time consuming, which makes it difficult for renewable energy developers, for the investors, for the stakeholders to acquire land for these projects. So we need to streamline the land acquisition process. We need to make it faster so that more people get interested in investing in starting these projects of renewable energy. The Indian government needs to simplify the process and reduce the time which gets taken in order to acquire land for such projects. The government needs to create a transparent and efficient land acquisition process, and it needs to take into account everything: the interests of the stakeholders, the interest of the landholders, the local communities, and even those who are developing this renewable energy. So one main thing to notice from this point is that India, the government has to take into account the interests of everyone. When we mean this, we mean not only focus on those who are developing the renewable energy, but even take into account the interests of the landowners, the local communities to make sure there's a fair, just process. Everyone benefits from this, and not only those who are using the renewable energy in the long run. Then we come to some of the frameworks. So India's policy and regulatory framework is a bit complex, as we mentioned above. So what we can do in order to address this is to simplify the process, make it a bit simple, and create a more coherent and streamlined process. So the government needs to make clear and consistent policies and regulations. This will help provide a stable and predictable environment for the developers. So once it's simple, and once everyone understands how to go about this, it will attract more people. More people will be, okay, let's do this. It's very simple. This is how it goes. I've done it once, I can do it again. But because sometimes the process is a bit complicated, not everyone wants to get their hands dirty, not everyone wants to get involved in it. And finally, what we're going to be talking about is increasing the demand. So we already spoke a bit about this. But so basically, the government needs to launch education and awareness campaigns. So, like we're doing right now, we're having the Sustainable Saturday talk. Create awareness, create education, which makes people understand the importance of renewable energy, the need to shift to renewable energy. All these types of campaigns, awareness programs make a big difference, right? The campaigns can focus on educating the public about the benefits of renewable energy. What does it need to transition to the sustainable energy systems, and highlight the opportunities for the investments in renewable energy. So India is a country that has immense potential. We even spoke about this. We saw this in the video. There are many statistics to prove the point that India has a lot of potential to harness its renewable energy sources, mainly because India has a large amount of natural resources, its abundance of natural resources. So the Indian government has set achievable and ambitious targets, but India does need to focus on how to get it done. So those are basically the solutions that we can do. So, in conclusion, basically, what we get to understand from this entire talk today is that India does have tremendous potential when we talk about renewable energy. India could be the face of the future, but India needs to address its situations, which is currently doing. It needs to work on it a bit more, make it a bit user friendly, and then it will be very easy for everyone to shift to renewable energy, and India could meet its net zero targets. So, yeah, that is my topic for today.
Yeah. Thank you, Shane, for such a wonderful information on renewable energy. Definitely, we have lots of challenges in front of us, but we will overcome these challenges. And as you said, awareness is a very important. Awareness is a very important thing because there are very few people who is understanding this renewable energy things and their importance. So we should do some awareness sessions. We should increase the awareness among the regular public about renewable energy. And definitely we have problem, but we also have solutions. As you said, we have multiple solutions. So we will
Right.
definitely achieve our net zero target. And I think we need public participation for achieving this goal too. So
Definitely.
definitely in future we will see some positive things in renewable energy. And now we are standing at fourth to
Yes.
for you said
Solar.
solar energy. And definitely I think we will definitely go on first rank very soon.
Yes.
So I hope, yeah, thank you, Shane, for this
Thanks.
information. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Thank you for describing the importance of renewable energy. What is the renewable energy? What are the challenges? And the most important thing, thank you for sharing that video. That video was really very informative. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.